Yeah, I think I'm good. Good afternoon, good morning, or good evening, and welcome to the Blurring the Lines podcast. I am your host, Peter Nikolaidis, and with me, as always, my co-host, Adam Bell.
Hey, Peter.
What's going on?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I was thinking of that song. What's going on?
What's going on?
No, it's definitely straight on summer here in Tennessee. We've got 100% humidity, which is nice actually, because we haven't had rain in probably 4 or 5 days. So the humidity's meh, but at least I'm not watering my lawn today.
Now, whenever I hear, 100% humidity, that sounds to me like you should need like scuba gear, because if it's 100% out there, that sounds like it's all water, you know? So
It's all water. It's vaporized water. It's like walking in a cloud.
Yeah. Do you have gills or something? I mean,
no, but you do not stop sweating.
Great.
I'm kind of not exaggerating. You just start sweating and you get used to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're not selling it.
It's not so bad.
Well, today up here in glorious Medford, Mass, it was in the low 70s, but high, like 80% humidity when I went out for a run this morning.
Mm-hmm.
And I did 2 miles pretty easy out, and then 2 miles hard on the way back. And when I came back, I was dripping.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was warm.
So it's 92 here right now.
Ugh.
High of a
Great.
93. So we got one more degree to
one
get
more to go. Well, with today it's gonna be it's like 80 something right now, and my girlfriend and I were thinking we were gonna head to upstate New York this weekend.
Yeah.
And I was gonna go and visit wine country. Excuse me. And then we looked at the weather forecast. It's supposed to be like stormy all weekend and temperatures in the high 80s with an air quality alert over the weekend too.
Oh, wow.
I was like, maybe not. So, but as it happens, it looks nice out in Western Mass. So we're going to go there and do some wineries down in Western Massachusetts instead.
Well, and you sent me some pictures of you on a hillside.
On a hillside. Which hillside was that? Oh, yes, that was a couple days ago. Yeah. I took a week off and I went up to Vermont and hung out with my folks up there. And while I was there, I did my decade hike of Camel's Hump Mountain. Yeah, Camel's Hump is the second tallest mountain in Vermont, and I have now hiked it 3 times. I did it once in kindergarten, once in college, and now, like 30 years later, I did it the 3rd time.
Wow.
Definitely, this was my fastest of the 3 too.
You sent me the benchmark, but I can't. What was the height? What's the elevation?
Oh, well, why don't we go back? I forget exactly how tall it is, but according to my watch, I gained 2,224 feet from where I parked. I don't know. Hang on one second. Echo, how tall is Camel's Hump Mountain?
Camel's Hump Mountain is 2,549 feet above sea level.
So it's 2,500 feet above sea level. So,
okay.
Yeah. So anyway, not all that impressive, but it's only the only one that's higher is Mount Mansfield up in Vermont. So, and I toyed with going there, but I was like, let me return to Camel's Hump first. So,
yeah.
I definitely it was a hike. I was not trail running. But I was working about as hard as if I had been, doing a good trail run. So it was only, it was just under a 5-mile round trip. But I, burned calories equivalent to, doing like, a 10K or so. So I was working hard, especially on the way up, but on the way down, it's a more, tricky kind of thing, picking and choosing, because it's like, it's not just a trail. A lot of the is not just like a trail where you're walking. It's like steps of rocks piled up or carved into the side of the mountain. And there are some some pretty tricky parts. I used my poles. I used my my trail running poles, and I was really glad to have had them. They made a huge difference. So yeah, there were definitely a couple times they saved me from a couple of slips and falls too. So yay, poles.
Well, cool. You know, it looked like it was pretty cool there on the top.
On the top, it was very cool. Yeah, I got right to the top, and just about like 2 minutes before the summit, I had to, where all the trees cleared out, and had to throw my jacket on. But all the way up to that, prior to that, it was just, t-shirt and sweating the whole way up. So, just hot. But you got right to the top, and, suddenly there's like buffeting, super strong winds, and I was like, okay, cool down. All right, that felt good. All right, let's get out of here. So.
Well, and I'm gonna hike Mount LeConte here at the end of the month, and it's 6,000 some odd feet above sea level.
Okay.
It's a rigorous up and down, but I mean medium rigorous. For somebody who never hikes, they would find it very difficult. But somebody who likes to hike, not extreme hikist, just a hobby hikist, they'd be like, yeah, there were parts of it are challenging, but for the most part, it's just walking uphill, avoiding rocks. I mean, and that's where I fall in. I'm not an avid hiker. I like hiking, but I'm not going to scale something.
Yeah, it's not like you're not rappelling down the side of this thing, right?
Yeah, no. But, you mentioned the poles, and, I used to kind of scoff at the poles. You don't need those. But it is really, I usually use one on the way up, but I like to use two on the way down, because having 4 points on the ground when one of those points comes loose, it sure is nice to have those other points holding on.
Absolutely. No, it really makes a difference. But so I bought these poles for trail running, for like hill runs and stuff. And I've only used them a handful of times. Like I have to be in the mood. But they're fun. But since, when you're running, you definitely want two poles. You don't want to be trying to three-leg it,
Oh, yeah.
And so I use, if I'm going to use one, I use both. And no, it worked out well though. So yeah, I'm happy. And they were not cheap. I bought these and they were like, I think they were like $200 or something when I picked them up. They're like top of the line, but don't regret it. They really, one thing that really amazes me is they get a really incredible grip. They almost never slip, even when I'm just like going right up the side of a slick rock. They get a grip and they hold on really well. So that's pretty nice.
Do you use
Leiki poles, Leiki?
Leiki. Do you use the rubber feet, or do you use the tungsten tip?
These are tungsten. Yeah, these are like these things eat rocks.
Yeah. So, well, cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was thinking, man, it'd be nice and cool on top of the mountain. That'd be nice. We have, one of my friends has made fun of me, says I'm, right now I'm on the pursuit of endless summer. And, I can't disagree with that.
Why would you? Right?
Well, why would you not?
I got news for you. The whole world is.
But the past few years, we've gone out west for our summer vacations, and it has been cold. Where we've gone. I mean, it's like, well, you're gonna have pants, you're gonna have a long sleeve shirt, and you'll be hot enough during the day to take off the long sleeve shirt, but the long sleeve shirt alone is not enough to keep you warm once that sun goes down.
I know that phenomenon well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what's going to be like it's, I guess, supposed to be like in the 70s or 80s, in Western Mass this weekend. So like it has been here, but hopefully not. I don't know. I'll bring a light jacket. I'll be fine.
Okay.
We're going to be doing mostly indoor stuff too, like wine tasting more than, oh, those are grapes. Okay, great. Yeah, I've seen that before. Show me to the wine.
So we went to Canada right across from New York. So we went in the Niagara area, and they did the cold press of their grapes, their ice wine. Have you seen that?
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't know if you were going to go into that area. Of course, I think they have non-ice wine grapes as well, but I thought it was pretty cool. I mean, the concept of, you mush the grapes, and when they're frozen, it's just like putting vodka in the freezer. The only thing that's going to be liquid in those frozen grapes is the things for alcohol.
Yeah. Things for alcohol. I like that.
So, but yeah, that's it was interesting. It was I don't know, it was really expensive from the standpoint of the cost of making it, the cost of buying it, when it didn't taste all that much better. It was just unique in what you were getting.
Yep. Yeah, something to talk about. I mean, that's what I was doing when I was making my own beer. It was just like, it wasn't that much better than, it wasn't better than some of the beers I've had. Definitely there are people out there doing a better job than I have. But it was fun. It was a talking point,
Yeah. So, well, cool. Oh, well, speaking of that, I've got kind of a weird phenomenon, and I'll have to look at it. So I bottled some beer last winter, not winter of 2022, but actually 2021. Okay. And I made this porter, and I let it sit in the primary fermenter for 3 months. I didn't get around to it, and that's kind of a no-no. Or I mean, not in the primary, it was in the secondary fermenter. So primary was plastic bucket, glass carboy for the second fermentation. Typically you go, 2 weeks, maybe 3. You just want to make sure that all the sugar has gone out of it. So like I said, I went 3 months in that secondary. And you don't do that because you take a risk of bad things getting into it, microbes causing bad tastes. It's just, it puts it at risk. I mean, if it's sealed, it shouldn't get in, but it can. So I was like, okay, well, whatever. So I tasted good. So I bottled it, and I'm like, well, I won't have any over carbonation. That's for sure. Cause there's no sugar left in it.
Right. Ate it all.
Yeah. And then I started drinking some later. Of course, I added just a little bit of sugar to recarbonate it. Now they're overcarbonated.
No. I had that same problem. That was like my last batch of beers that I was making, they were overcarbonated and foaming like Mentos in Diet Coke kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I didn't know how to fix that.
Yeah, there's nothing you can do once it's overcarbonated. The only thing you can do is you can take that beer to as close to freezing as you can get it. And that'll just reduce the physical activity of the carbon dioxide. It'll just make it less vigorous. Doesn't actually make it warmer. The warmer it is, the faster those molecules are moving. The colder, the slower.
Slows it down. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
So if you can get it almost close to freezing, then it'll be a lot less. But if you forget about it, it's going to burst in your fridge.
I had that happen once too.
No, so I think what I'm going to do, since I'm the one who likes to drink my home brew, and I mean my friends do too, who are also home brewers, but I'm just not going to carbonate any porters or stouts because they seem to over carbonate on me. I just won't carbonate them at all because I don't mind it being flat.
I mean, if that works.
Yeah. You just vigorously pour it. So when you pour it, let it glug, 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 make big bubbles on the way in, and it'll, if it's important, bubble up. If it's really important, you could do like a nitrogen tablet.
Okay. Really kick it up a notch. Yeah. How does that work? I've never used nitrogen tablets. You just drop it in, or?
Yeah, I've never used them either, but yeah, they just kind of bubble them up like an alka.
But you do that like just before you drink it? Okay, so it's not something you do in the brewing or the fermenting process. You do it after the fact.
You know that's what happens in the cans.
Yeah, is that what that it opens up and
Yeah,
what?
there's a nitrogen, I don't know what it's a little plastic ball, but
Yep.
when the change in pressure happens, it bursts and it goes and it carbonates the drink right there for you.
So I had a non-alcoholic Guinness about a month ago, and so and this was the first time I had had one of those nitro tablets in a long time, and I always forgotten about that. I was like, what does that mean? Oh, okay, yeah. So there you go.
Yeah, I like Murphy's Irish Stout. They've got a good, that's one of my favorites.
I don't know that one.
Oh, it's really good.
So I haven't made beer for a long time, but earlier this week or last weekend, I did make something beer adjacent.
Okay. What'd you make beer adjacent?
Pretzels. They came out pretty well too. I was pretty happy with them. I think they were slightly overdone. So the oven was a little too hot. I had them on the top rack and I was baking, the instructions called it like bake at 400 or 450 or something. And I think they would have been fine if I hadn't had them right on the top rack. So they're ever so slightly well done. But they tasted good. The consistency was really good. And I was like, all right, now I know how to make pretzels again. And I had only attempted once before about 10 years ago. I completely messed it up and I never tried again. And then I was, if you look at, I don't know if you've noticed, like if you're at a bar or anything, but the price of pretzels is ridiculous.
Oh, really?
And, oh yeah. They want like, $10, $12 for a large pretzel.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, I mean, sure, you could say it's labor intensive, but it's not really that big a deal. So I figured I'd make some for myself. I made 4 large pretzels, and over the course of the day, I ate 4 large pretzels.
Oops.
Somehow staying within my calorie budget for the day, though. So yeah.
Guess you didn't get to eat that much. So speaking of, I know that you like kombucha. And you have made it.
I have.
And I mean, it's one of those things that you've seen it around enough, around you, your friends, my daughter drinks it, to the point of I like, oh yeah, I've drank kombucha. And I realized I never have. It's like, oh, if you're, it's kind of like just being around it. I thought I had. And so I had this idea of what it tasted like. I imagined it, flavored with whatever flavoring it was, and this like back end, very limited carbonation. And, it might be, depending on the flavor, it's all, like if you want cucumber or you want lime or whatever, it's going to have that little bit. And whether you like it or not depends upon how it's flavored. So I was at friends of mine we do a book club, and we were book club on Wednesday, and I wasn't drinking, but I wanted something. I mean, I was like, okay, I'll try kombucha. I'll try it. It was a lime and cucumber, and I had it. I don't like kombucha. It tastes like vinegar. It tasted like I was drinking a cucumber vinaigrette salad.
It is an acquired taste, and you can definitely, depending on how you brew it, it can be more or less vinegary. And the problem I was having was the last couple times, you remember when I stopped brewing beer for a while, when I stopped brewing beer, and it has been a while, I switched over to kombucha for a while. But then, even then, my kombucha wasn't coming out right either. And I was like, that's it. I'm taking a break. I just, time off. Because even I couldn't get it right. And it was coming out. It was like going straight to vinegar, just like that. And I was like, no, it's supposed to take like 3 days or whatever. And like 1 day in, it was already gone. It was vinegar. I was like, but it shouldn't really taste, it should have like a hint of vinegar, a little bit of a flavor of that. But it shouldn't taste like, this is outright vinegar.
Yeah. No, it wasn't bad. I mean, like I said, I didn't particularly like enjoy it. Like if I had 5 drinks, I I mean, I wouldn't put it at the top of my drink list if there were other things I liked in front of it. Like if there's a Coke Zero, I'd choose Coke Zero first. No, but there's other thing. If I had to choose from Diet Pepsi, I might choose the kombucha before Diet Pepsi. But like I said, I was kind of meh on it. I'm not saying I won't try others. I wouldn't mind trying others to see, this company makes this. I want to give it a go. I don't have a problem with that. And I'm not one of those people that are like, oh, I just can't drink this. This is so awful. I can't drink. There's very few things that are so awful that I can't drink that are like other people like. I mean,
right. I mean, there's IPAs.
Yeah, but I can drink an IPA. I mean, I might not enjoy it like this is my favorite thing, but I can drink an IPA.
Yeah.
Unless I'm picking hops out of my teeth,
if I was desperate, I could drink an IPA. I've actually in the last year or so I have found a few IPAs that are like, you know what, this is okay. But there's only been like 2 where I have said, yeah, I would order this again, as opposed to if I was forced, So.
Yeah, I've had some summer IPAs that have a citrusy sharpness and high hops and really, really cold. And I have enjoyed those. I'm like, oh, that's pretty good. So
cool.
Yeah. So anyway, thought you'd think that was funny. So
I did.
So I dreamed about us podcasting last night.
You need to dream bigger.
You need to dream bigger because I was so what I was thinking last night, I found out my schedule was moving. I was like, I need to reach out to Peter, see if maybe we can record earlier because I can't do it at our normal time because of the move and everything. And I was like, well, so it was on my mind when I went to bed. And then, so in my dream, you and I are podcasting. And we were podcasting in the same house. And so I was in my part of the house, and then you were in your part of the house. And it wasn't really like a house. It was more like it was a building. It wasn't my house. It was never anywhere I'd been before. But you're talking, and I cannot hear you. But I can hear you in the other room because you're not that far away. So I can hear you talking, but it's not coming, it's not recording. And I'm saying, Peter, I can't hear you. Peter, I can't hear you. And you just start talking louder, and you've got worked out this huge intro. You've got a live band over there with you, hammering the drums and pulling out this big intro, and it's huge. And you're like, this is so awesome, Adam. We can't wait to do the podcast today. And so then I come over, and the band's wailing. I'm like, Peter, I can't hear you. What? Peter, I can't hear. And then somehow the room changes, and it's not just you now. There's like a whole bunch of other people in there. And finally, the noise just stops. It was like a comedy routine. It completely stopped, no sound. And I said, Peter, we can't effing hear you. And that was the only thing. And all the people in the room were like people that, I really shouldn't cuss in front of.
Clients of yours, deacon at church, etc.
Yeah.
Yep.
I was like, you're like, oh, you can't hear me. Here, I'll fix that.
Why don't you just say so? You don't have to shout.
Yeah. So, but that's all it was. But it was kind of funny. So
I've had dreams like that. Not quite like that, but similar. So
yeah, I wasn't naked, so that was good.
That's a plus. That's a plus. That's good.
Neither were you, so that's even better.
Even better. I thought you were going to say that your dream was that we were recording in the same house, and therefore I should come down to Nashville for a weekend.
Yeah, we can do that too.
Yeah, sure, great.
Yeah, come on down, and we'll go out to the lavender farm and give you the tour there.
There you go. And it's not that big a deal. It's only a couple hours. I don't remember how long the flight is now. But
I
it's
don't
not
even
that
think,
far.
yeah, it may be to Boston. I want to say it's 2 hours and 20 minutes.
Yeah. So yeah, sure. I mean, if I'm gonna fly though, maybe I should just keep on going straight back to Puerto Rico. So yeah.
It's nice in Puerto Rico.
It's nice in Puerto Rico.
All right. Well, so
All
you're a
right.
CISO guy.
I do play one on the internet. Yes.
Play one on the internet.
Mhm.
So I have, well, I've moved to Keeper for my password manager.
Okay.
And one of the things Keeper offers is the OTP field. So
Yes. So does
and
1Password.
yeah, 1Password. My IT glue also does.
Yep.
And so I have been embracing the OTP so that I have it in Keeper. And now if my phone becomes unavailable and the password manager doesn't become backed up, now I've got the OTP rolling in my Keeper.
Yes.
Well, one of my guys said, well, you shouldn't do that because you're no longer in a multi-function, he said, you're no longer at a second device. And I'm like, well, you are right. I'm not at a second device. If somebody compromised my Keeper, got my master password to that, then they could get my OTP. And yes, I would be up the river. But as a CISO, I wanted to hear your official thoughts on that.
So I've been thinking about this a lot lately because I use 1Password, and 1Password also supports having your one-time password code, your 6-digit code generated right there in the app.
Mm-hmm.
And at first I was like, well, that's no good because, your second factor is now right there with it. But normally, and apologies if you can hear the dogs barking, the neighbor dogs are visiting downstairs. But they also like that second, normally that 2-factor token that I have is on the same device. It's just on a different app. So I guess the risk is that somebody would somehow compromise that specific app on your phone. Right? Because if, they could compromise both the app and the, if they could compromise the whole phone, they would have access to both of my apps, the one that has the password and the one that has the one-time password in it. So the question is, what are the attack vectors to break into the Keeper app or the 1Password app on my phone? Other than physical or like looking over my shoulder, I don't know what they are, right? I don't know how you would get access because those one-time passwords, I'm assuming Keeper does it the same way that 1Password is. It's tied to the specific install of the app. So just like you have like certain things, like I use Authy and from Twilio, and that does synchronize the seeds across all of my Authy devices. So I have it on my iPad, my iPhone, or my Android phone. I can have the same 6-digit code show up on all of those. 1Password doesn't do that. And I didn't realize, like, I added the token on my Mac, my desktop copy of 1Password. And then I open up the iOS version and there's no one-time password there. And I thought it was going to be a synchronized thing. So it's arguably that's more secure because they're never holding it. They're never holding the seed to take to the other devices. So I think I'm okay with it.
Okay.
And at this point now, I have a couple of my one-time passwords stored in 1Password. And I think the times when I want to do that is when I know I will always be using my desktop or my Mac to access a website, and I'll be pulling the password out of that.
Okay.
Because if it's something where I'm going to be doing it on the phone, I don't want the code. I don't want to have to go from my phone to my Mac to get a one-time password, right? That workflow does not make any sense.
Yeah.
Going from my Mac to my phone, that makes sense. So I don't know. Right now, I think I'm okay with it. Now, I have not gone and started a mass migration. I added a couple. But when I did that, I also re-added them back into the Authy app as well. So I have them in both, in two platforms. So definitely the most convenient would be to have it everywhere. I have it in the Authy app, have it on the, on the 1Password app, etc. But a wise person once posted on Usenet decades ago, security and convenience are inversely proportional. So, but just by virtue of having those passwords there, you are lowering your security posture because you are elevating your exposure, right? You're vulnerable to another something, right? But again, what is that attack vector? How could someone attack the 1Password app? I don't know, because I don't know, I don't know what the 1Password, like, it does talk to the 1Password servers, right? Because they do synchronize a password database.
Yeah.
So, some sort of intercept, there, I suppose, could cause a problem. But again, if they did that, they're not going to be intercepting just the one-time password. They're going to be doing my entire database. So again, but this is where you would say, okay, Peter, but if they did that and they somehow managed, well, again, if that 6-digit code or the seed was getting passed back and forth, which apparently it's not, then that would be intercepted. So I don't, from what I know about it, and again, I have not done a deep dive. I haven't dug into the white paper to see how they've architected this, etc. So just knowing what I know about this, I think it's okay. I think it's probably not a bad thing.
Yeah. See, Keeper, I've got it on my phone and on my computers. It's a Chrome. I've got the Chrome plugin. It does time out and it does reset every time I close the browser. So I have to enter my master password every time I open up the browser because it closes it out. I don't want it to automatically remember.
Okay.
It's not that big a deal for me to enter it in, but it is synchronized between my phones. So that OTP is in my Keeper vault. So I can access my vault through the plugin, through the web page, through my phone. And so I can get that password on any of those devices. But it is, like you said, convenience. The convenience is now I can go to a website, put my username, put my password, and then when the OTP comes up, it'll drop it right in there for me. And that is convenient.
Yep. So I think at this point, I have gotten so accustomed to going into the Authy app on my phone to get my codes. I will likely just add them to my 1Password desktop and not bother adding them to the 1Password iOS app because I don't really, you could argue again if you have to go into it, but I would say 90% of the time on iOS when I'm filling it out, I'm going to a website. I'm in a browser or whatnot, and it's like, enter your password, and you just tap the passwords button and it auto fills. So I'm not usually launching an app.
Yeah.
And if I had to get the one-time password, I don't know if it would auto-fill those. I don't know if the 1Password app for iOS will auto-fill the one-time password as well. If it did that, then I could see a benefit, again, from a convenience perspective, not from a security perspective, of using that because it, it makes sense because I don't have to open up an app. I don't have to do go through the step of actually firing up an app, copying, finding and copying a password. So
yeah, my exception to that rule, like I said, I'm migrating things into Keeper. I am not migrating my most sensitive things from a business standpoint. So like my ticketing system, my RMM, I'm not putting those automatically because if somebody did compromise my Keeper account, they would have that information, and I don't want that. But I'm doing things like my PAX 8. It would be very inconvenient for me. but it wouldn't be compromising my clients.
So question, first off, considering your operational security before you answer this question, where are you keeping your most sensitive passwords?
Oh, no, I'm keeping them in Keeper, but I'm keeping the MFA out of Keeper.
Okay.
So I'm still I'm having to have 2 separate devices for those.
Got it. Okay. Got it.
Yeah, that's like I said, that's just in case somebody does get my Keeper password, then they have my security password. They still don't have my MFA.
Got it. Okay. All right, cool.
So, plus, I'm sure my insurance agent would lose their mind. Like,
so speaking of insurance, nice segue there, by the way.
Insurance is the devil.
Insurance. I have been working with a client of mine to help them qualify for cyber insurance.
I've got a pitch right after you do this. Right after you say whatever you're going to say.
Well, so the thing is, they showed me they showed me the questionnaire that cyber insurance asked them. Yep.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, basically these questionnaires are, essentially becoming like mini audits, these days. And so they showed me these things and I looked at them and I was like, okay, yep, I get these. These are not accurate. You say you're doing X and you're not.
You are
or
not.
You said you were doing it on, yes, you're saying you're doing this, but you have it installed on one system. You really need to have it installed across your entire enterprise. You can't just say like, yes, we protect systems with 2FA. Yes, we do protect some systems with 2FA. I mean, yes, you can say that, but understand they won't pay if you file a claim, right? So what's the point of going through these hoops and lying, right? The point of doing these questions is to get cyber insurance in the event of to restore you to functionality in the event of a financial calamity. That's not going to happen if you lie, right?
Yeah.
So, like that doesn't make any sense. So I've been helping them with that. And it was kind of fun. But what's your follow-up?
What's the follow-up? Okay. So it turns out Sublime is now going to be offering compliance as a service. Because
in what sense?
The situation that you just described, it's happening with PCI. PCI compliance now. It used to be, like you described, you answer questions. I mean, you have these things in place and they're pretty much yes, we have firewalls in place. We have antivirus in place. We have two-factor authentication. We have least privilege in place. Yes. They're like, okay, fine. Send us the policies and send us the proof that you're doing these quarterly checks and, all these things. And so here's where, we are now having to do this. And the problem is, my company is an IT company. We are not a legal company. So if we are writing policy that's going to be legally binding between us and the insurance company, the regulator, whether it's PCI, HIPAA, NIST, NCUA, they want these policies and everything. But they're saying, you give us your policies and they need to be legally correct. And I'm like, we're not lawyers. I mean, you don't want me writing your policy because who knows what I may agree, make you agree, say that you're doing. So we are now engaged with a company who is doing our compliance for our clients for us. And they're going to do all of these different compliance bodies. So whichever one they've got to do, CMMC, NIST, whatever, they come in, they do the audit, they do the they Well, they give us the remediation to do because we're the IT company. They say, here's the remediation you need to do. Here are the policies that you need to be NIST compliant, because I don't know what they need to be NIST compliant. Unless I want to go out to the NIST list and peruse thousands of pages. So they'll do that for me. And then they'll do the monthly follow-ups. And then you have a question on that?
I do. So I'm curious, like, will you be interfacing with your client then, or does this third party do all of the interfacing directly with the client?
The third party will be interfacing with me and the client. So we'll be involved, because any of the IT stuff, we're going to have to do it. Any of the business stuff, they're going to have to address their business side of things, physical security, that files and stuff like that.
I'm curious because back when I was in Robin Robbins, I met up with one of the vendors who was offering that sort of service, and they were they were focusing on like HIPAA compliance. Essentially, that was their main focus. But I've definitely worked with a few other groups, and I'm curious, like, do they start off just with like cookie cutter, templates, or do they start? I'm sure they must be starting off, with cookie cutters, from scratch, or not from scratch, and then just filling in the blanks and stuff. So I'm kind of curious to see how that, I'm kind of curious to hear how that works. Policy generation has never been my strong point,
and I don't like it.
So no, it's not my thing. And I know as a CISO, that is something that people expect, but that's where I generally lean on, one of my colleagues for. Maybe I'll lean on Chat GPT for some of that. But you think I'm joking. But seriously though, I'm curious to see how they work and what the process is like, because I find when it comes to generating policies, that's one of the places where I get like the least amount of buy-in working with the customers. They just want to like, whatever, just put something down, just say something, I was like, but you have to actually follow this once it's done. Are you ready to do that? So.
Well, and that's where, just being completely honest, if I were getting you to write the policies for my company, I would tell you, you write it however you want and feel like is appropriate. I'm going to read it, and I'm going to look at what you say I'm going to do. And then I may come back to you and say, Peter, I can't agree to do this. This is
but that's just it. You have to, that's the whole point is, because too many times, like I remember I've seen places where they're like, our policies are more like guidelines. Like, no, guidelines are guidelines. Policies are policies. And if you're not following, if you are telling me that we don't follow our policies, you need to change your policies. Full stop. Right. I've definitely had those conversations before. And so it's interesting. It's not my favorite space though. So I'm more of a, I do like editing policies, cleaning them up, rewriting them for, sanity's sake, just saying, look, this isn't, really this isn't doing what you think it's doing, or, policy that says something like all computers will be protected by Symantec antivirus. I'm like, well, that's dated, huh? Or, procedures that say, like if this problem arises, get in touch with Bill. Maybe you want to talk to the director of end user support and not Bill, right? Stuff like that. So just cleaning up things. And, when I say like, look, there's no way you're going to, meet this policy. And they're like, well, we want to be aspirational. I'm like, but let's say you put this policy in place and you're not following it. How's that going to look if you get audited? How's that going to look if you have a data, a breach incident kind of thing, right? So.
I always think, I long since have learned you make everything on dynamic, meaning, the IT department will address this. The director, like you said, will address this, because the director changes.
we will protect these systems with, endpoint protection, right? Or,
Yeah.
something like that. And it will be updated on an XYZ basis or something, right? But it's
Yeah.
not, we will update our antivirus definitions weekly,
Yeah.
from semantic antivirus. So.
Whoops.
Oops.
No, so where we are in the process, we have targeted one of our clients that's highly regulated, and we're doing the compliance as a service with them. Sublime is paying for it, meaning I'm not charging the client for it because it's a, on the job, building out a process. So we're eating the cost of it, and it's going to be our pilot for doing it for all the rest of our clients as well, which are not going to be free when we do it.
Right. I hope not. You deserve to get paid. You deserve to get paid for your work,
Yeah. But, I'm more concerned about the compliance company doing a good job and knowing what they're going to do for the rest of my clients. And I wouldn't want to charge my clients and then turn around like, oh, this was a terrible experience. Well,
right. Yeah. And that's the thing is we were looking at the same thing when we were going through that HIPAA compliance offering. And, the plan was that I was going to do that and then, start turning around and selling it. And, but, we just never went anywhere. It wasn't in my wheelhouse. These days I could probably do more, work in that space. So, I mean, I've been definitely assisting people, but like, if I had that tool now, yeah, that might be more of there's more of a use case these days.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. It seems to be a little bit easier to sell compliance than it would have been when you were in Robin Robbins in, I guess,
10 years ago.
10.
Yeah.
Because
10 years ago. Yeah.
It's not, you had to be HIPAA compliant, but so many of my HIPAA compliant businesses were like, oh, well, we have this through our malpractice insurance, and it's done through that. And I'm like, I bet it's not as good as what we're intentionally doing, but
yeah. And that's the thing too, is the compliance landscape has changed a lot, right? And so people are a lot more, more aware of suits and regulators cracking down even on smaller businesses. And, they're aware that they're getting breaches. But I think cyber insurance really is becoming the driver for compliance. That's where it's coming from. It's like, oh, do you want to have insurance? And a lot of places are just like, we'll self-insure or something like that. Cyber insurance premiums are going through the roof.
Yeah.
But I think in my experience, most of the companies I work with still want to have it though. So, they're not choosing to operate without it. So and now essentially, they're having to go through this mini audit through cyber insurance saying, how do you do this? Describe your process for that. Do you have this in place? Do you have that in place? So I think it's a good thing. I think it's good, not just good for business, but it's making the customers, the cyber insurance customers, clean up their act. And, if that's what it takes, then that's what it takes.
Well, and the other motivator for me is, of outsourcing this to a third-party expert, that this is all they do, is I don't want to be sued.
That's just it. You don't want to get, well, for you, outsourcing compliance policy generation, you don't want to get sued.
Yeah.
And, same thing for your clients. If they're in a regulated industry, they don't want to get sued for not having a policy in place. Right. So, yeah.
Because, I mean, like I said, I could, if the insurance or, whoever has, like these 10 things have to be in place. And if I've got only 8 of those in place, they're like, oh, well, we don't have to pay. You're at fault. You owe the breach money.
Yep. Have fun.
I told you my insurance company for my security insurance, they made me tell all of my clients what services that we offer and what services that they are not paying for, because these people are coming back and saying, I didn't know you offered that service, and it's your fault that I didn't know that you offer that service, not my fault for not buying it. and it's happening.
That makes me just want to punch somebody, though. I mean, that was one of the things when I remember where that was again one of Robin's fear mongering tactics that just didn't leave a good taste in my mouth, was how it was a little in typical Robin style, explaining to people like how you are you're voluntarily accepting the risk of not having a backup and disaster recovery service, BDR solution or something like that.
Yeah.
And what she was right. The thing is, like, you can't, if you choose not to address this, you can't choose like the way you handle risk is, you either address the risk, you transfer the risk to someone else, read insurance, you address it with compensating controls, or you accept the risk. You say, yep, we know this might happen, and we'll deal with that if it happens. But those are the three options. The fourth option, which most companies choose, is ignore the risk.
Ignore the risk. Yeah.
You can't do that. That's not an option, right? And so I think that's but for someone to say like, oh, we didn't know there was this thing called backups and it's your fault that you didn't tell us that. I'm like, well, maybe, but I don't see the part where you're paying me $100,000 a year to be your CIO or your CISO. I guess I don't know, maybe you are, maybe that's the way you've positioned yourself as the expert, and we will quote unquote do everything for you. Now that I think about it, I guess if you had positioned yourself as the we will take care of everything, sure. But to say, like, I'm providing you these three services and I do other things, but I didn't tell you we did other things, and now you can sue me because of that.
Yeah.
That doesn't sit well with me.
And I had a former client that they, we offer an email monitoring package, and it's back-ended with a SOC and everything. And we were selling that, and they didn't buy it. I mean, and I told them every TBR, this is a service that we offer. You guys don't have this. I show them it's a risk, and they didn't buy it. Well, their email got compromised. Their CEO had somebody in their mailbox, intercepting wire transfers, and they sent wiring information to the wrong place and lost tens of thousands of dollars. And they came back to me, and I said, well, they wanted me to pitch in to pay for this. I'm like, no, I didn't give away your money. You didn't call them? Well, no, we didn't call them. You didn't know our email was insecure? I'm like, we don't secure your email. You don't pay for that. You get whatever Microsoft does. And they were like, well, you didn't sell it to us well enough. That's what they told me.
They said, well, in that case, I would like you to buy our full comprehensive package, and it costs only $100,000 a month.
Yep.
And there you go.
Yeah.
What, am I not selling it good enough?
Yeah. Well, after that, we don't work with anybody who doesn't take our full suite of security. It's not, I've built a price in that this is what it costs, and it includes our full suite of security. Well, we don't need this. Yes, you do. This is the pay to play. If you ante up, these are the things you have to protect your company. If you don't want those things, you should probably find another IT company, because we're not going to have we can't work together.
Have fun with that. So, should we move on?
We should move on.
Okay, I have a nifty with a question mark.
It may be nifty.
It's kind of nifty, but only nifty enough to warrant a 2-star review from me in the App Store.
Okay.
Okay. So the app is called Speechify.
Speechify.
And the reason I got it is I was looking for a better reader app. And a listener of the friend of the show, Scott Wilsey, just seems to have FaceTimed me by accident. So, Speechify, it's I was looking for a better app. So a few years ago now, for a few years, I've been using Voice Dream to read PDF and Word documents and clipboard contents.
Okay.
I'm getting sick of the voices. And especially with the AI generated stuff like the 11 Labs voices and stuff, there are a lot better voices out there. But every time I go to the Voice Dream marketplace for voices, there's still the same old slog, and they all sound computer generated, and I just don't like them.
Hey, Peter.
Yeah. So I downloaded, I was like, there's got to be something better. So I downloaded the free, trial, 3-day trial of Speechify. And the sample voices they offer are Snoop Dogg, Gwyneth Paltrow, Barack Obama, and the narrator, who is like this grizzled old, British type. Now, I was reading the Savage Worlds fantasy companion book. So essentially the Dungeons and Dragons book for Savage Worlds. What better voice than this grizzled old, British style narrator? And it's really good. He sounds, it's not 100%, but it's really good. Here's the three problems I had with it. Number one, it can't handle text columns properly.
Oh.
So if you have column 1 that reads down and, blah, 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 and then wraps around to column 2, it reads column 1 over to column 2, column 1 over to column 2. So it's like the quick brown fox ate a pizza and jumped over the lazy dog when he got home from school. I was like, no. And when I'm driving and I'm listening, I'm like, wait, that doesn't sound, wait, what? What? Wait,
am I really tired?
And the thing is, I even changed the view, because by default it shows the view like in PDF format with all the graphics and everything. I even changed it to just plain text, but it still has all the text in broken format. So I was like, all right, that's not going to happen, right? So that was number 1 problem. Number 2 problem, no search feature. So I cannot find like chapter 22 and jump there. I have to scroll through it and manually try to find that part of the book to resume.
Okay.
All right. That's ridiculous. But here, the worst part of it, $139 a year subscription price. Now, if it was a tool I would use every day and it had a search feature, and it could handle formatted text properly and stuff, I'm getting to the point, if I got enough value, especially if it's got all these different voices that don't grate on me like nails on a chalkboard. But right now I just cannot give it, so I give it 2 stars just because the voices are very impressive. But other than that, I was like, nope, not happening. So I'll check back.
Well, yeah, I might give it a try because, it's very rare that I find a book that I want to read that isn't in Audible.
Right.
And I have a, paid for membership of Audible. So I buy 3 credits every month.
Right.
And I'm like, well, I'll just get it in Audible.
And for me though, it's not usually books as much as like white papers. The Verizon data breach incident reports, the, CrowdStrike's annual threat report, things like that, which are, like 20, 30 page long PDFs. I'd much rather have someone read those to me than me, parsing through. If something's interesting, I'll dive into it and I'll read it. But, for stuff like that, I greatly prefer just to hear, something else reading it to me. And again, that's where I want a good voice. So I might even reach out and email the Voice Dream authors and just ask them like, hey, are you working on any new voices that don't suck?
Yeah, what you really need is a junior analyst to read that stuff for you, and you give it to them. Say, I need a summary in the morning.
That's where I could use 11 Labs, but that's the thing. Is like I could write. I even think I did. I think working with my pal GPT, I wrote, and I co-pilot wrote a Python script to parse a PDF file and voice output, speak the text out using an 11 Labs library. But it got really expensive really quickly. So yeah, I didn't want to do that, spending like $1 every, I guess, I don't know, having spending $1 to read a big PDF, document to me, that's probably worth it.
Yeah. So this may be this since we're on a could be nifty. One thing that I'm trying right now that could be nifty is Monday.com. Have you used it?
I have not used it. I saw an ad for it and I was like, okay, this could be interesting, but I haven't used it. So is this your new, project planning? What are you using it for specifically?
Yes. So right now I'm using it to coordinate my onboarding. So
okay,
when I onboard a client, it involves sales team, account manager, marketing team, operations team, technical team. Now, it used to be that I was all of those, but now I have people and I need to coordinate that whole process. So I need a project and I need something to where all of us can work together. And what I hate is I hate to have another tool. I mean, I use so many tools right now for my business. Another tool. I wanted to use my BMS, which has projects built into it.
Yep.
The problem is my marketing team and my sales team won't have access to BMS. They shouldn't.
Okay.
They never
Right.
create tickets. And I don't want to pay a license fee of 70 some odd dollars a month for them to have access to a ticketing system that they only do projects whenever there's an onboarding. So Monday will allow us to do that collaboration outside in a whole nother tool set, but all these team members can do it. And it's got some pretty cool automations. I mean, it's got a lot of automations. It's got a lot of integrations. So the cool automations that I'm doing right now is let's say you and I are working together on a project. You're one team, I'm in another team. You have a task that's dependent upon me to finish before you can start on your task. So you've got to get notification when I've completed my task. So it's got an automation. When I change, and this is standard stuff. I mean, you love automation, so you'll like this. So I change my status to done on my task, which your task is dependent upon mine being complete. So it marks mine as done. And then it sends you a notification and says, hey, Peter, task XYZ is complete. Your task XYZ is now in a status of ready. And it changes your task to ready. And you get an email notification that you can kick in and get started on yours. And so it's pretty slick that way. And, what I'm doing with my help desk. See, here's the other thing is I've got help desk and I need them to time track for my clients. So the workaround that I did is when a help desk ticket comes up or my technical team needs to do something, it sends an email to my help desk email and then automatically generates a ticket so that then they will know to kick off on their task and that they're already ready to go on. So then they can keep track of it within their standard ticketing system because they have a ticket for that. And then I don't lose the hours with this third-party app. So
good.
Pretty
That's
slick.
cool. Yeah. I mean, that whole thing of like automatically telling people that, like, look, time to get to work, that's great. So that they don't have to poll and look back and say like, oh, is Adam done yet? Nope. Oh, we're still waiting on Adam. Okay. So yeah, no, that's great. That makes a lot of sense.
And they do have, I mean, you could do other things like I could comment in your task. Like I could, if I go to so let's say that you were waiting on me. I could go to your task and say, hey, Peter, I expect to be done with my task by the end of day today. So be looking for yours tomorrow. So you don't have to do like a whole separate email on that. You do it right in the system. You get a notification. So that's kind of nice.
Oh, that's cool. I'm pretty sure that Smartsheet has similar capabilities. But I don't know that we're leveraging those where we use them. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, it's probably tougher for you guys to get integrations approved.
It is at the hospital. That much of this is no question. So, but hey, on that note, what do you say we wrap things up?
Yes, sir. Let's wrap things up. We had a long episode, so that's good. People got their money's worth this day.
Every single penny.
So, dear listener, we do want your feedback. If you'd like to discuss a particular topic, or you know some things about some of the things that we talked about, and you can better inform us as well as inform our audience, then you can drop us a line at www.blurringthelinespodcast.com. You can find us, learn more about our hosts. You can learn more about Peter at Paradigm Consulting Co LLC, paradigmcc.com, yogawithpeter.com, friendswithbrews.com, and on the Mastodon at Nikolaidis at infosec.exchange. You can find me at Sublime Computer Services, sublimecomp.com, rrlavenderfarm.com, and at sublimecomp on the twit. And with that, we can hit the big red button.